Hello and welcome to the Essentialism video series part 3 Eliminate. How can we cut out the trivial many? This part 3 Eliminate, has 5 chapters: clarify, dare, uncommit, edit, and limit. So let's go through them. So here we are going to talk about essential intent. Vision and mission, that is the first box on the left top. We want to change the world. Sounds very inspirational, but are so general that they are almost entirely ignored. Values, which is the left bottom box. Values such as innovation, leadership, teamwork, they are too bland and generic to inspire any passion. Quarterly objectives, that is the bottom right box. Increase profits 5% over last year's results. Sounds concrete enough to get our attention, but they often lack inspiration. Now comes essential intent, the top right box, which is inspirational and concrete. It's both meaningful and measurable. So it's inspirational, it's concrete, it's meaningful, and measurable. Now, a non essentialist would think or has a vague general vision or mission statement, whereas an essentialist has a strategy that is concrete and inspirational. A non essentialist has concrete quarterly objectives, but ones that fail to energize or inspire people to take their efforts to the next level, whereas an essentialist has an intent that is both meaningful and measurable and memorable. A non essentialist has a value set but no guiding principles for implementing them. Essentialist, on the other hand, makes one decision that eliminates 1,000 later decisions. Let's see the next part of this, which is dare, and it starts with an example of the very famous Rosa Parks. The right no, spoken at the right time, can change the course of history, just as Rosa Parks did. She refused to give up her seat on a segregated Montgomery bus at exactly the right moment, which coalesced into forces that propelled the civil rights movement. She refused to give up her seat on a bus that did not allow her to sit along with other white passengers. She was asked to get up and give that seat away to a white passenger, and she refused to say no. And that's how the whole civil rights movement started, and people got their rights. That was a huge moment. Essentially awkward. Reason why it is so hard to choose what is essential in the moment is as simple as innate fear of social awkwardness. So separate the decision from the relationship. When people ask us to do something, we confuse their request with our relationship with them. Sometimes they seem so interconnected that we forget that denying the request is not same as denying the person. Only once we separate the decision from the relationship can we make a clear decision and then separately find the courage and compassion to communicate it. Yes, saying no requires courage and compassion. Saying no gracefully doesn't have to mean using the word no. You could say something like, I am flattered you thought of me, but I'm afraid I do not have the bandwidth. I would very much like to, but I'm overcommitted. That could make our life so easy. Make your peace with the fact that saying no often requires trading popularity for respect. Essentialists accept that they cannot be popular with everyone all of the time. Yes, saying no respectfully, reasonably, and gracefully can come at a short time social cost. But part of living the way of essentialist is realizing respect is far more valuable than popularity in the long run. Remember that a clear no can be more graceful than a vague non committal yes. Anyone who has ever been on the receiving end of this situation knows a clear I am going to pass on this is far more better than not getting back to someone or stringing them along with some non committal answer like, I will try to make this work, or I might be able to, when you know you can't. Being vague is not the same as being graceful, and delaying the eventual no will only make it much harder and the recipient more resentful. Okay, here is a great example from the author of The Seven Habits of Highly Effective People, Steve R. Covey. Um, 21-year-old Cynthia's father had made plans to take her out for a night out in San Francisco, and they had been planning for this date for months. They had a whole itinerary planned to the minute level. Now, Cynthia decided to attend the last hour of her dad's presentation, and then she would go and meet him at the back of the room after presentation, and they would quickly leave to hit Chinatown on trolley car before anyone tried to talk to his dad. Everything was going per their plan until, as her father was leaving the convention room, he ran into his old college friend and a business associate. They had not seen each other for a long time and met very enthusiastically. His friend invited him and Cynthia for a spectacular seafood dinner at Wharf. Cynthia's father responded, Bob, it's so great to see you. Dinner at the Wharf sounds great. Cynthia was crestfallen. Her daydreams of trolley rides, ice cream sundaes evaporated in an instant. But then her father continued, But not tonight. Cynthia and I have a special date planned, don't we? He winked at Cynthia, grabbed her hand, and they ran out of the door and continued with their original plan. This man was none other than Steve Covey, the author of The Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. So, a non essentialist would avoid saying no to avoid feeling social awkwardness and pressure, whereas an essentialist dares to say no firmly, resolutely, and gracefully. A non essentialist says yes to everything. Essentialists say yes only to the things that really matter. Uncommit. Avoiding commitment traps. Beware of the endowment effect. A sense of ownership is a powerful thing. As the saying goes, nobody in the history has ever washed their rental car. This is because of something called endowment effect, a tendency to undervalue things that aren't ours and to overvalue things because we already own them. Think of a book lying on your shelf that you haven't read in years, a kitchen appliance just sitting in the box, a sweater that one of your aunts gave you. Whether or not you get any use or enjoyment out of it, subconsciously the very fact that they are yours make you value them more highly than you would if they didn't belong to you. Beware of the status quo bias. The tendency to continue doing something simply because we've always done it is sometimes called the status quo bias. One cure for status quo bias is borrowed from the world of accounting. Let's see what it is. Apply zero-based budgeting. Typically, when accountants allocate the budget for next year, they use last year's budget as baseline for next year's projects. But with zero-based budgeting, they use zero as the baseline. In other words, every item on the proposed budget must be justified from scratch. This is more time consuming, sure, but has a lot more advantages. It efficiently allocates resources based on needs instead of history, detects exaggerated budget requests, draws attention to obsolete operations, and encourages people to be clearer on their purpose and how their expenses align to that project. Now onwards, instead of trying to budget your time on the basis of existing commitments, assume that all bets are off. Then begin from scratch asking, which would you do today? You can apply this to your financial obligations, work projects, and even relationships. Stop making casual commitments. Soft, intentional commitments can fill up your day. For example, you're talking to your neighbor today and she's working on one of her projects, like arranging for her workshop or for her exhibition, and she asked your help, and you softly, unintentionally said, "Sure, why not? Sounds great." And you fill up your weekend, which you actually wanted to have free so that you could rest and put your time for doing things that you love to do. So from now on, pause before you speak. 5-second pause before offering service can greatly reduce the possibility of making a commitment you'll regret. So next time you say, "Sure, sounds great," pause for 5 seconds. Get over the fear of missing out. Run a reverse pilot to fight this fear. This reverse pilot has been coined by Daniel Shapiro, director at LinkedIn. In reverse pilot, you test whether removing an initiative or activity will have any negative consequences. This is a relatively low risk way of eliminating non essentials. So, a non essentialist asks, "Why stop now when I have already invested so much in this project?" Whereas an essentialist will ask, "If I weren't already invested in this project, how much would I invest in it now?" A non essentialist would think, "If I just keep trying, I can make this work." Whereas an essentialist would think, "What else could I do with this time or money if I pull the plug now?" Non essentialist hates admitting to mistakes, whereas an essentialist is comfortable with cutting losses. Edit. The Latin root of the word decision, cis or sid, literally means to cut or to kill. Stephen King has written, "To write is human, to edit is divine." Editing obviously involves cutting out things that confuse reader and cloud the message of the story. It is a matter of record that well-edited movies and books are easy on eye and brain. So condense. Many people have been credited with coming up with this apt sentiment. I must apologize. If I had more time, I would have written a shorter letter. Doing less can be harder, both in life and art. Condensing means saying it as clearly and concisely as possible. Likewise, in life, by condensing, we can do more with less. So, a non essentialist thinks that making things better means adding something, whereas an essentialist thinks that making things better means subtracting something. Non-essentialist is attached to every word, image, or detail, whereas an essentialist eliminates the distracting word, images, or details. The last part to eliminate is limit, the freedom of setting boundaries. Look here on the right in picture 1. This is Jin Young, a tech company employee at Korea. She is preparing for her wedding while simultaneously preparing for a board meeting that is to take place 3 weeks prior to her big day. Boss Yuri asked her to put together slides for that joint presentation at the meeting. She put in several 15-hour days and completed work quickly so she could devote the days to prepare for her wedding. How exciting! Now look here, picture number 3. But the boss made an urgent request to Jin Young to finish one more project before board meeting. What did Jin Young do then? Look at picture number 4. She had never said no to Yuri this many years of working together, even if it meant throwing her life into turmoil temporarily. She devoted unknowable hours to execute every request and task and delivered them in a neat and complete packages, no matter the sacrifice. But this time, she did not hesitate, and she told her boss no. She chose not to apologize or over justify her answer. She simply said, "I've planned for this time, I worked hard for it, and I deserve to have it. Guilt free." What happened next? Something shocking. Everyone else on the team said no, and Yuri, the boss, was left to do the task on her own. At first, she was fuming. It took her all the week to complete the task, and she wasn't happy about it. After laboring for many days, she saw all sorts of flaws in the way she had been doing things. She soon realized that if she wanted to be more effective manager, she needed to pull in the reins and get clear with each member of the team about expectation, accountability, and outcomes. In the end, she was grateful to Jin Young for helping her see the error of her ways. By establishing boundaries, Jean Young not only opened her manager's eyes to unhealthy team dynamics and opened up a space for change, she did it in a way that earned her abiding gratitude and respect. So, the non essentialist thinks if you have limits, you will be limited, whereas an essentialist knows that if you have limits, you will become limitless. A non essentialist sees boundaries as constraining, whereas an essentialist sees boundaries as liberating. A non essentialist exerts efforts attempting the direct no, whereas essentialist sets rules in advance that eliminate the need for the direct no. Don't rob people of their problems. Parents of a 25-year-old sought help to fix their son. Author of the book Boundaries, Henry Cloud asked them why they had come without their son. Well, he doesn't think he has a problem. Author Henry Cloud said, I think your son is right. He doesn't have a problem, but you do. You pay, you fret, you worry, you plan, you exert energy to keep him going. He doesn't have a problem because you have taken it from him. Cloud then gave an example. Imagine a neighbor who never waters his lawn, but whenever you turn on the sprinkler system, the water falls on his lawn. Your grass is turning brown and dying, but Bill looks down at his green grass and thinks, my yard is doing just fine. Thus, everyone loses. Your efforts have been wasted, and Bill never develops the habit of watering his lawn. Solution? You need to put some fences to keep his problems out of your yard and in his, where they belong. So that's it for part 3 Eliminate. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please put it down below in the comment box. Thank you.